1,000 subscriber giveaway, Force Will 101.
10 years of TCG content is kind of crazy. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Cosmic, and I didn't get a chance right before I left for Japan to do a video just talking about, well, 10 years of creating content and kind of, looking back on the channel. Obviously, huge shout out to all the subscribers, getting close to 12,000 actually. The original goal was, 10K by 10 years, which is insane. And just how much life has changed, honestly, with a lot of different things going on. So I wanted to take a step back, do a video, and first, well, just talk about 10 years of creating card game content, talk about some of my favorite mechanics or my favorite mechanic over those years, and then just kind of talk about what's next and kind of where I see the channel going from there. So this is a little bit more of just an update kind of behind the scenes, but I hope it'll at least be a fun one of just kind of reminiscing and also just talk about what's coming up for the channel, what the rest of 2025 is going to look like. So with that out of the way, let's dive into it. So yes, if you just go to the YouTube channel, go to playlists, we have covered a lot of games over the last 10 years. And while I'm not going to go into every single one of these because I do think it would just take entirely too much time, I definitely think looking back, some of the key staples that we've kind of dug into and really created a lot of content for was definitely Force Will. Obviously, shout out to Six Sages Gaming, kind of what started all of this and started us on this path. Final Fantasy trading card game we also did a lot for. And then also Legends of Runeterra, I did a little bit of streaming, did a little bit of, that's why you do see a break in the YouTube content. A little bit was on Twitch itself. And then, of course, within the last couple of years, Battle Spirit Saga. So we've covered a lot of games. Obviously, we've dabbled in a few others, and we just showcased them on the channel or did a gameplay session. But a lot of times, people have always asked, what was my favorite game and what was my overall favorite mechanic? Now, I do have to say, leading up to before Battle Spirit Saga, I gave a lot of love to Dragoborn, which was also a game by Mike Elliott. And it was very clear that if you played Battle Spirits, it was definitely a evolution of that game, and removing the cores, which is unfortunately one of my favorite things about Battle Spirits, but I do think in general is a little bit too complicated for your average TCG game. Dragonborn was a nice way to have a Western, more style of artwork, had a lot of MTG artists that worked on it, but then also a little bit simpler of a resource system that was more akin to like Duel Masters or Kaijudo, where you just put a card down, get the resource type of deal, right? Just a very single energy per turn resource, what have you, that just accumulated over time and had a more natural curve to the game, like we see in like Hearthstone and other games of that nature. So those were definitely big ones that kind of stuck out in terms of like a favorite game. Definitely, again, going back to Battle Spirit Saga, because I really do think that the core mechanic adds a little bit to it, but the very short-lived but one that I want to give a shout out to is actually Luck and Logic, and we did have a couple of different videos on the channel for this game, and again, unfortunately, lasted a very, very short amount of time, but one of the things I do want to talk about was the TransUnion mechanic, and I do have all of this on the YouTube channel. I do wish I'd go back and like update card images and stuff, so a little bit easier to follow, but essentially what TransUnion is, as you're going to see in this turn, you're going to have two different card types, a foreigner and a bonder to go with it. They have to be a similar classification. So there's like pairs that you would put together. And effectively, they do a fusion dance for the Dragon Ball fans. You combine them onto one card, tutor your deck for a specific TransUnion, then you would get some additional type of effect. You can still play these TransUnions, as I have down here, as just base cards, but they got some additional effect. And what was really cool about this is that it allowed you to, and it was 2 color limits, but it allowed you to build your deck in a way that, one, you do have to remember that you can't just put a 1-1-1 line into your deck, so like one of each base, one of that TransUnion you want to go into, because you're likely not going to see the pairings in the right combination, or you might draw one too early, or the TransUnion goes to hand. There's a lot of different considerations like that, but it does give you a little bit more flexibility of, okay, what piece do I really need to catch up in this game, or what can give me a major defensive turn before I try to, maybe go and extend for a kill on the following turn, right? So just the consistency that it rewarded good deck builders with by having that chance to tutor up really was just a fun thing to do. Now, of course, there were a lot of other things that weren't ideal with this game that I'm definitely not going to get into in this particular video, but if you want to check that out, definitely by all means, you can go check out the playlist on the channel and kind of where things are at. So that was just a really quick talk about kind of where things have been in the past. Obviously, I'm doing now a lot with Union Arena. Maybe you've had a chance to catch my TCG player report videos where I'm doing now quarterly analysis of just sealed trends, single trends, how the quantity of said products are moving, and really just trying to paint a better picture of what the industry looks like, because I do very strongly believe that we are either, the bubble has either bursted, depending on how you want to look at this year in particular, or is the bubble bursting going to be more signified by games announcing end of service? In Japan, we've already had Build and Divide, the non-IP focused one, get cancellation. Battle Spirit Saga, of course, had cancellation this year as well. Neither of these are going to be a surprise to anyone if you follow each market respectively. And with the time of recording this, we now have 9 different TCGs that are going to be launching this year. Of course, with Gundam being a big one, in my opinion, later on this year. Of course, very excited for that. Talk about that more in a minute. And then other things like Godzilla or HoloLive, which, you know, are going to have varying degrees of relevance as well. We have to wait and see where those games end up, because honestly, there's just not enough room left in the industry overall. So I definitely think going forward, there is going to be a very large focus. For me personally, of course, still sticking with Union Arena. And I know I've said it a few times, but I'll bring it up again here for the video itself. But obviously, I'm going to be doing a lot more with Union Arena in the future. It's just a game that I really like, and it's also just a great way to celebrate various IPs. It's the perfect side game to have on you at all times, so I definitely want to support the game in that way. And of course, just as I've been tweeting about or sharing on Facebook or elsewhere where you might follow me, Bandai is doing a lot of cool stuff, right? They do have these financial quarterly reports that I tweet out and talk about quite a bit. And if you've been following them over the past 2 years, like I have, Bushiroad also releases these. It gives you a better idea of what the Bandai umbrella is starting to look like, not just the toys and hobby side of it, but there's a lot of honestly great movements happening from Bandai, which again, let's acknowledge at the end of the day, it's always about appeasing the shareholders and making sure that, you know, they get paid too. It's obviously a bigger organization, people got to get paid, et cetera, et cetera. But it does at least look like we are going to be seeing the one that really stuck out with me is a reinforcing of the IPs that fans know and love. They gave Idolmasters a shout out for some reason, which I thought was at least amusing, but it does give us some transparency around there is a lot of movement for Bandai to push things out in the West. With the evolution of Bandai North America being back, obviously all the distribution challenges that kind of get alleviated by that being back. A lot of stores have already said how much more positive it is to get their tournament support. There's a lot of good things happening, and there seems to be even more of a focus of Bandai pushing things west because they just realize the overall importance of it. So I'm really excited to see where kind of this goes from an overall. I still want to keep an eye on Bandai games overall. I think Union Arena, even with the monetary side of it, you know, being a little bit heavier than I'd like to be for, you know, what I make on the channel and all that stuff, it is one that I'm still going to have as kind of a main focus going forward. I just might not be able to buy every single set as it were. So, you know, that will be kind of a problem as I kind of address as I get there, but I still want to at least put out the, you know, the deck building videos and at least some of the tournament highlights, be it from Eggman's event, be it from the regionals tournaments that we're going to have here be announced in the next month or so. A lot of good stuff happening for the game that hopefully we'll dig into a little bit more, which also brings up the question around Gundam. So with Gundam overall, of course, I've already done a few different videos on it, and I'm really excited for the game. Obviously, I just came back from Japan, so I have a bunch of the, I guess this is still on my desk, right? But I also have a bunch of the Gundam Arsenal base cards that, I guess we'll just do this really quick. The Gundam Arsenal base cards, which may or may not come through all that well, but I mean, these cards were absolutely gorgeous. There we go, to see. And something that, of course, as being a Gundam fan, I should be more excited that a physical game is going to be in the West. And I am, definitely to a point where there is stuff I want to do for that game as well, but it's not going to be in the same capacity of being able to, you know, do a case every single set, have dedicated videos and all that stuff. So instead, this is where I'd like to mention that I will be partnering up with Spira. If you're at all interested or involved in Gundam already, you kind of already know who he is, but a lot of the content that I do will either be on his channel, be it gameplay stuff, being it podcast stuff, whatever that might look like. So please make sure to subscribe to his channel for kind of all those updates. But it is one that I will be involved with and hopefully playing locally. That is kind of the biggest, part of all of this, is that it does have to be something that I can play locally. We'll have to wait and see what that looks like. But based on the initial interest, it does sound like things are going to go pretty well with it. But again, if you want to see more dedicated content, again, for set one, I already have a case ordered because that was, set one Bandai stuff's always good to buy. So I have a case coming. I'll still at least do like the initial release stuff, update that channel video playlist at least a little bit, but then all future content will be on Aspira's channel. Or again, if I get a chance to collaborate with like Main Deck Masters or Zeege, RPG Zeege, whoever else might be from the BSS time or otherwise I get a chance to collab with, I definitely will collab with, but it just won't be appearing on my channel in particular, which then does, of course, beg the follow-up question of what does the rest of 2025 look like, right, for the channel? Now, I did mention we have 9 different TCGs coming out this year, and I still want to get some type of unboxing or mentioning of these games on the channel, depending on what that looks like. Of course, I'll throw up an image here as well. I just got a new camera, which is going to look really nice for the unboxing videos. I'm still waiting for some of the pieces to come in, so that will hopefully, it's actually like right here on my top-down shot. We'll see how that looks here in a little bit, but I'm still very excited for all things tabletop, especially because it's just easy to do webcam games if you have a setup for it. So I am looking forward to at least dipping my toes into that, again, covering some games on the channel as they pop up. But then, of course, just have to take a step back, and we did a lot last year in terms of sealed product purchases, and especially with Union Arena ramping up. It's just I cannot afford to dive into TCGs the same way that I have, which brings me up to the other point, which we got to go back to the other screen here for. Does bring me up to my last point that I want to talk about is Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. Now, if you follow me on X or Blue Sky even, I have talked about this game a little bit, and I'm just going to let the trailer here play as hopefully it's not too loud, all things considered. But this is a fresh start for Shadowverse, the digital card game. Now, yes, it is going to be an engine update. You are going to be seeing some new mechanics, which we're going to talk about in a little bit as well, with like the Super Evolve. I think it's on the other page too. But really, this is just a fresh start. As someone who has obviously played Shadowverse Evolve, someone who just likes pretty much everything Cygames does, I am very excited for this game. But then also just understanding that it is going to be, well, a lot cheaper to cover and to celebrate compared to a physical card game. And the other thing that's really awesome is that they are doing this entire social hub feature. And if you've been kind of picking up a common theme across my videos, especially over like the last 6 months and whatnot, I really just want to focus more on these games that really can celebrate bringing a community together. And in that, Shadowverse Worlds Beyond is going to have all these co-op fun features that you can dive in with your friends in case you want to take a little bit of a break from the card game itself. So I am very excited for let me close out of that. Worlds Beyond. Later in just like 2 weeks from now, we are expecting a major update on when it's going to release. Yes, it was delayed a little bit, but again, this is something that I am going to be taking a bit of a focus on. So again, I forget how much is on here already in terms of the information they had versus the other stream. Yes, the Super Evolution. So if you've played Shadowverse before or you've played Shadowverse Evolve currently, the major new thing is going to be the Super Evolve ability, which does take multiple Evo points, which is going to be really interesting because I think this does add a good amount of depth to the game just in terms of how the effects will end up. Different cards, using regular Evolve or Super Evolve can impact the game. There's also a few other things that they've hinted at, but the new engine looks great. Obviously, the artwork is as great as always. And then the thing again here at the bottom is just going back to celebrating, a game and being able to connect with the community. In this case, it is going to be, hey, go fishing together or something, right? There's a lot that, they'll probably expand on in the future as well, but Shadowverse World Beyond is something that I am just very, very excited about. And then also, while technically, we have to wait and see how they deliver on this, but if you know from our Legends of Runeterra days, this does mean I could stream a little bit again, but also there are going to be cash tournaments. There was a promise in one of the very early announcements for this game that they're going to, in so many words, treat the West better, because obviously Shadowverse itself did feel a little bit lackluster in the support that we saw, but there is a promise about cash tournaments, circuits, and things of that nature for the West and for the rest of the world and not just Japan, because they do a lot of cool stuff in Japan for Shadowverse and Shadowverse Evolve. So I really hope they do well on that promise and kind of expand it out elsewhere. So again, for me, this is going to be a very large focus. Obviously, it might take a bit to get fully ramped up and to see this get deployed and all that good stuff. But I am very excited again, as I said, all the same. So what does it actually look like for a weekly or even monthly basis, right? So thinking bigger picture, and this is just kind of, I've rambled a bit, but just to, be a good promise here at the end. Of course, with Union Arena having, monthly launches, it does create its own cycle of just always having something to do. But in the future, it will likely be a case where Union Arena gameplay, none of that's going to go away, right? Still going to do our every deck for a set, still going to do our meta breakdown, still going to do some versus video. That all stays the same. And then with Worlds Beyond, there might be a set review or something as a kind of additional video, but Worlds Beyond will just be more strictly gameplay focused and just taking stuff off of the stream and putting up to YouTube in its own category, talking about the different decks in a climb to climbing ladder or whatever else we decide to do at the time, right? I know that they do have like the pick 6, so we'll see if there's another refocus on limited. Who knows? But that could also be some fun side content in general. And beyond that, it is just going to be whatever game releases at whatever time and kind of how things are then, right? So again, the only one that I really can speak to kind of up front is going to be Gundam. That's definitely the biggest one top of mind. That's not until July. That will be its own. I definitely foresee, 4 or 5 videos kind of like right off the bat. And then beyond that, it'll just be back into Worlds Beyond and back into Union Arena. And of course, if I get lucky enough to be invited to the Bandai Card Fest stuff, I definitely want to continue to support that as well. So again, just want to give a little bit of an update of kind of where things are at. Obviously, I'm a little bit under the weather, back from Japan, trying to get settled back in. The rare battles are up for Union Arena, so I have to make sure I'm signed up for all that. I'm still trying to work on getting this new camera set up. I'm waiting on some additional parts, and I had to redo all my OBS, so hopefully this all comes through nice and clean. So I'm very curious to see how this gets uploaded to YouTube. But yeah, hopefully good things all to come in the future. So the last thing I'll mention here, of course, is because this is kind of like the, hey, 10 years type of video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in below. If you have anything about the games I've covered in the last 10 years, any other questions about kind of what's next, more than happy to answer them. But again, I kind of just missed it. And then, we kind of just been having a crazy month, to say the least. I didn't get a chance to do a true proper celebration as I might have liked, but still want to at least put together something here at the end before I dive back into kind of the normal content structure and what have you. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching all the way through. If you did, again, I'm very excited for a lot of things in the industry. Again, Union Arena, TCG player reports, and Shadowverse World Beyond being the big 3 of the focus, at least for the immediate future, like next 6 months. And we will see what else happens between now and then. So, as always, thank you for the support. But until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.